Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of MGR Unplugged. We really have nothing else to talk about. We kind of said that we didn't want to discuss the coronavirus anymore.
Yeah, we broke the rule last week. We said we're not going to talk about coronavirus, and then the whole episode was coronavirus. So this week we're really going to try.
What's the over-under? How many times you think you're going to say coronavirus or something like that through the episode? I'm going to try to limit it to like
10.
No, I'm going to try to limit it to 4 or 5. We're going to discuss things related to, but not specifically like coronavirus stuff. I think we're all virused out. I mean, it's like everywhere.
I mean, you have your medical experts, and there's other people to listen to that are more expert
So
than us.
I mean, I'm not going to get into details of predictions and all that stuff. I mean, I always say we're not going to do something and then we end up doing it. So thanks for your patience. But we're going to be more disciplined this time and try to just kind of discuss life and the pursuit of happiness. How's that for an intro?
Wow, that was very deep.
All right, well, let's get started.
None of you people can tell me to stop. Lower the lights down. Hand over my crown. Hand over my heart. I do this for my town. I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time, my time. None of you people can tell me to stop.
All right, welcome back. I'm here with David. David, fly.
There's a fly in my face. All
fly.
right, we'll keep going. One take.
All right, no fly, no cutting, nothing. So it's been a while now since we've been in this kind of transition period.
It's been about a month.
It's been about a month, I think, since we started taking things more seriously everywhere, especially in the U.S. And I was just thinking, I've been thinking a lot for the last few days. Obviously, I have a lot of more time now to think about stuff that is not work-related. But it's like this is like the new normal. Everybody keeps saying, is this the new normal or something or whatever? And it's funny, the other day I actually listened to, I forgot which podcast. We're going to get into that later. But they were saying that, you know, the typical conspiracy theories or things when they say that this is like life is like a video game, you know, like Musk also says that. And we're all being like part of a game that somebody's playing and saying.
Like a simulation, you mean?
That's simulation, exactly. And thinking this is like a part of the simulation that whoever is playing the game of us being the pieces of the game decided to just do this pandemic and see how humanity reacts.
If you want to get into conspiracy theories, I have a buddy at the Pentagon who told me.
You do?
Yeah.
The janitor,
everybody has
is a janitor.
Everybody has a cousin or a friend of a friend or an uncle who works at the Pentagon or in the White House
CIA.
or somewhere in there, and they have secret information.
Yeah.
That this is all a grand conspiracy. Big plan.
Actually, a good friend of ours sent us a video the other day about this being what did he call it? What did they say? The grand conspiracy or things to come or something. It was interesting. But what about if this was the part of the simulation? Like, you know, the simulation, the video game of life, and then whoever is playing this game, kind of like in the HBO series Westworld, it's just basically saying, okay, we're going to do a worldwide pandemic, forget this country of that country, and then we just do it for everybody and see how they react in confinement and all that stuff.
I honestly do think we live in a simulation.
You do?
Not that type of simulation where it's like a manipulated video game, not something like that. But that's a topic for a different day. I didn't want to get into that. I think we probably do, just based on the fact that we're not far from creating our own simulations as far as... Anyway, okay, I don't want to get into a whole topic. That's a deep conversation for another day. But how are you doing? How's life? We joked before the podcast. We were running a little late, and you said, "I've got places to go, people to see," and I said, "Oh, really?" Because
things to do.
You can't do any of those things right now.
Places to go. I'm like, wait a minute. No, I used to say that all the time. Now I got nothing to do, no places to go, no people to see. I know. But honestly, I was just saying that this is the new normal. I need to be careful wording this, but I don't really dislike it. Obviously, I dislike the virus and all these things, and obviously the situation is chaotic and very sad. But on the work side and on the lifestyle, I don't dislike it too much. I mean, I work is slower, obviously. We have a lot of clients that are very active and a lot of clients that are unfortunately not so active because we do a lot of hospitality and things like that. And it's just a fact of life. But I actually enjoy the fact that I can work hard or work normal basically in the morning. Like I'm an early morning person, so I wake up 6, 7 o'clock. I'm working, but then by noon or 1, especially now that we are 3 hours with the East Coast, it's like 4 o'clock or something East Coast. Most of the people are either, obviously half of the people that we work with are kind of also working from home, whatever. So things really slow down, and I really just go on with my life doing other stuff, meaning not going anywhere because I'm basically staying in the house, but I have a lot of things that I like to do. So I'm finding this kind of like, it almost feels like I'm working part-time, which is
well,
true.
These are times when, obviously, it depends on your position, right? As far as a business, obviously on the individual level, people who work in certain areas, retail, anything physical, are hurting majorly right now. But as far as the businesses, forget about more the individual level, but the businesses, now is when businesses like ourselves, who we are very cash flow positive, we don't spend ridiculously, we have money in the bank for rainy days. Now is when we are benefiting, because it always is. And I struggle with this too, because it always is hard in good times to, because let me put it this way. A lot of people, and this was always crazy to me, but people really, smart people said having cash is stupid because you're not putting it to work and you keep making more money. And okay, in good times that might be true, because if you have cash, obviously that's not being put to work, whether it's in investments or reinvested in your own company or whatever. A lot of people, especially over the last 10, 12 years where things have been really good, have said, oh, you don't need much cash, just invest it all, But now all of a sudden, cash is king, and companies who have lots of cash are doing just fine. And we're in the fortunate position where we have not, like a lot of companies, been taking all of our cash and just spending it on fueling growth and trying to cut margins in favor of growth. And because we've done that, we're in the fortunate position where even though our top line revenue has shrunk, because we have clients who, especially like you said on the hospitality side, have cut their budgets, and I think every business is going to be affected, or the far majority of businesses. So even though our top line revenue has shrunk, we're not necessarily panicking or really feeling the pain or anything, because one, we have diversified, so we have other clients who are doing great, but we basically are not, we don't have a burn rate, okay? We're not like, we have 18 months of cash left before we're out of business. Like a lot of companies are in that position.
They wish they had 18 months.
Or even, it depends on the business.
Some companies have 18 days.
Right.
And that's the trouble.
But, so that's when I think that people are realizing, oh, you know what? Having savings is a good thing. Oh, being prepared.
And that's at the company level.
That's at the company. And at the personal level, too.
At the personal level, I have a lot of friends that, they're always like, it's a delicate balance between saying, oh, you only live once, you need to have fun and this and that, and they always live like it's the last day of their lives. I'm buying this and buying that, and then they don't bother to change or to save money for situations like this. And now all of a sudden they're all in a panic,
right?
Because they don't have enough. First of all, there's uncertainty. They don't know what's going to happen with their jobs if they're not temporarily unemployed or furloughed, or basically they don't know if their business will survive. And secondly, they don't even know how long it's going to last.
Right.
So
you talk about the uncertainty. One of the things that pains me right now is, I'm on the phone with clients every day, and they all basically ask, what do you think is going to happen? It's like, I don't know. Unfortunately, normally, people come to us because we give advice and our thoughts on things, and I give my thoughts. But we're in uncharted territory. So as much as it pains me, I just keep telling clients, like, listen, I don't know. I can tell you what's happened so far, and I can tell you kind of a rough range of things that might happen, but I just don't know. I don't either.
In fact, I like to make all predictions all the time, but obviously I've been changing you corrected me. I didn't think from the beginning that this was going to be so serious. You and I placed a bet online on video.
On the video. You can go back. It was
about a month ago.
When did we record that? That was in February.
February 27th. It was the end of February where...
But this is the craziest thing. You talk about exponential growth. So our bet, if you didn't see it, was at the time I think the U.S. had like 50 cases or something like that.
Yeah.
And it was just starting. And I bet you it was. Oh, I remember it was February 27th because I bet you that by March 27th, exactly a month, that the U.S. would have over 1,000 cases, and that was our bet. And you took it, and you were wrong. But even I was wrong because I said okay, and I was being like conservative, but I said, okay, let's say 1,000 cases. Because at the time, remember, we had like 50. It seemed
we have 50, but really 35 or something of those were on a cruise ship.
Yeah.
So 15 were the ones in Washington, which is the only state.
So even though I was right in the bet, I was so wrong.
Grossly underestimated.
On the underestimated side, because by March 27th, we didn't have 1,000. We had 100,000 cases.
Yeah. So the thing is that, I've been making predictions, and I still make predictions all the time, but people say, oh, yeah, 2 weeks ago you said this. It's just, I have more data now. I have more information. I have more, I know more what the government is doing to prevent it, what the different governors are doing, what we are acting. They promise these things and they don't have it yet, or they're acting with this other part. So, information changes over time, and there's nothing wrong with changing your projections. Now, I still remain optimistic that this is going to end. When? I don't know. But I think right now, my prediction is that the summer will be better. Now, it's not going to be like we're going to go like all of a sudden like, okay, this movie's over, everybody get out of the theater. No, it's not like that. It's going to be slowly like opening the gates a little bit and saying, okay, we're going to relax the rules here, let people go out, maybe we'll still gather, don't allow gatherings of more than 10, 15, 50, 200, expanding like that, see how things progress, because it's so new that we don't even know if people can be positive again after overcoming the virus, or obviously there's no vaccine yet, it's not going to be around for like
That's a
years.
good topic that I wanted to mention that I have no idea, but the thing is, like, okay, everybody talks about flattening the curve. And the idea is that everyone's going to get it, but we just need to make sure, or not everyone, but a ton of people are going to get it. So we need to make sure that it doesn't happen all at once and it happens over a longer period of time.
It's good coffee, by the way.
Yeah. What's the brand name? Oh my gosh, I feel bad. I should shout them out. Anyways, we'll put
True Coffee or something? Or?
It's I forget.
It's a startup.
I just ordered it, and
I know.
I made some before the show because I wanted it.
It's
to give
good.
it a
It's
shot.
good taste. Yeah.
We'll give him a shout out next week. I promise. That reminds me of another D2C that I needed to review. I'll give it in a second. Tushy that I mentioned a few weeks ago.
Oh,
The
yeah,
bidet.
yeah.
Because there's
Okay,
toilet
make a
paper
note then.
shortages.
Yeah.
All right, too many things going on. What was I saying? What were we talking about?
Oh my God, you forgot.
The flattening the curve. So, okay, let's say we get to the point where everything's shut down and then things start, basically the new cases per day start going down and we have more recoveries. And let's say by May, June, that starts happening, right? But does that mean we just open everything back up? Because then people are going to just get sick again.
Right.
So at one point, like, are we talking about, because the reason I say this is because I have a little bit of insider information on the Amazon side of things, because Amazon is not stupid and they have their projections as their own internal projections for the virus. And I have internal connections at Amazon, and they don't think, because I was asking on the business side, because for those who don't know, FBA, which is what basically allows products to be prime, is shut down for non-essential items. And when I was talking, he said it might be till Q3, Q4 that we basically reopen FBA, and that the internal team at Amazon is thinking that this is going to last for another at least quarter, 3-4 months.
Well, we need to define this. Like you said, this is going to last, and this is again the information that we have, and I will get it
as far as when
my question the sources and everything later. But
when do things open up to the public, as far as like, okay, people just are normally going to restaurants again, movie theaters, physical retail, things like that? When does that reopen back to normal again?
Two things, two key pieces of data or factors there. One is testing.
Yeah.
And number two is the number of emergency cases. Basically, what is killing the system right now is again, the curve is so high that the emergency rooms and the intensive care units, the ICUs, are overwhelmed. And that comes with not enough ventilators or respirators or masks and all the equipment that is needed, because they are not used to this huge flow of people coming at the same time. So that's one of the factors. So the other thing, obviously, the testing. The more testing we have, obviously, we're going to have more confirmed cases. That's fine. We just have people there that are asymptomatic, but then if you do a test, they will show that they have the virus. And they are working around, like, I may have it. I doubt it, but I mean, I haven't been anywhere. But I may have no symptoms, and then I go around, talk to somebody, and then I give it to them. So when testing becomes more available and the testing is faster, which apparently now there's a test that is starting to be distributed that is like a 5 to 15 minute test, 5 minutes to let you know if you have it, if you're positive. And it could take up to 15 minutes to be negative, to double test or double check that you're negative. But anyways, when you have these rapid tests, then I wouldn't be surprised if you start going out to restaurants or public places, airplanes or whatever, and they test it. They say, we want to make sure that you're not infected. I mean, there was already places when we started having this quarantine thing, they were actually taking people's body temperature and everything to make sure they don't have a fever or anything.
I think in Korea and Taiwan and some other countries, they're literally giving you like wristbands or things like that you, if you're tested and you're clear, that you can wear this wristband and go out and be fine. So maybe we'll do something like that.
And people that are either they overcome the virus and they become basically immune, if that is proven that to be the case. And then if you are tested and you are negative, then they start relaxing the quarantine rules for those people that can go out, and then you're surrounded in a restaurant by people that are negative and other stuff. So like I said, it's not going to be, it doesn't seem like it's going to be like, oh, we're all clear. It's going to be little by little relaxing the rules. Just like now, actually, we're not imposing like a full lockdown altogether. We're just going depending on the cases. Some states are more serious than others, and they're kind of leaving the governors to make those decisions in the city stuff. But I think it's going to be the same thing. So normal to the way we were before, it's going to take a while. Now, rules are starting to relax and allowing hotels to start opening and restaurants to go opening, because one thing that we cannot have forever is business shut down. I mean, that's just not going to work, because then you get into other issues, and there's also psychological issues and not economic issues. I mean, people lose their jobs, they start quarantine forever. I mean, that's just no way to life, and people start rebelling themselves and saying, fuck it, I'm just going out, So you don't want to get into that situation. So, but as soon as we start flattening this curve, things will get better, and it'll be slowly, like you said. I mean, Amazon, I'm not sure about your sources, and FBA is basically the ability to ship. I just think it's a
good reference point, because these guys are, you talk about skin in the game. Amazon has ultimate skin in the game. They benefit from having prime shipping available for all these products, but they just can't do it.
Right.
And so for them, they have their own internal models. And they're looking at, basically, they think that it's going to be multiple more months of this.
Right.
That,
but
like,
keep in mind that
people who think that this is going to, like, life's going to be back to normal in June, I think are just
no, it's not going to be. It's not going to be. I mean, it may start coming back to normal like in May, but very slowly. It depends. It depends on the cases. But like, if you consider normal what we had like 2 months ago or after New Year's, no, that's going to take a while. Now, you consider the new normal, like, okay, we're going to keep a little social distance. We're going to keep a little relaxation. We maybe not allow gatherings or large groups. Maybe we have more testing and we can have more people that are tested negative to kind of start going around with their lives. People go back to work in a more controlled environment. Again, I hate this comparison with the flu, even though I used to do that. But because this is unknown, everybody gets the flu and we control it, and it kills 60,000 persons a year.
Yeah, but the difference is the flu doesn't hospitalize anywhere near the rate that this does.
Exactly.
That's the big difference.
No, it doesn't do it.
And it doesn't kill, obviously, either. But
well, it does, but it
kills
60,000.
Kill at the same rate, though.
Well, the difference is that
it kills 60,000, but keep in mind, I think they say that 70 million Americans get the flu every year.
Right.
So it only kills 60,000 out of the 70 million.
Well,
if 70 million people got coronavirus, way more than 60,000 would die.
No, of course. But the thing is that now we're very familiar with flu. We expect it every year.
Right. It's a known unknown.
Exactly.
Whereas that's what I was saying when we had our debate, that the coronavirus is an unknown.
Exactly. But then,
and we know more now, but we still don't know
that's the
yet.
point. That's the point, that in six months, if this started like in February, and you add up to like as the summer approaches, we'll have 6 months, we'll have much more data, we'll have much more research. All the major pharmaceutical companies are coming out with different short-term solutions, mid-term solutions, long-term vaccinations, all that stuff. So eventually it'll become part of like the flu vaccine. It'll be actually incorporated, and then every year people just, I mean, like I said last time, I mean, H1N1 is still killing people and affecting people. It was a big pandemic also in 2009, and it killed and affected a lot of people. It was actually deadlier than this one. Not so infectious, but it was deadlier.
Well, you know what's funny?
But the thing, 1 second, but the thing is that now we're familiar with it, and we know about it, and we have solutions for it. So it's just a matter of controlling the tsunami that we have now. So it's just a little bit of a surf, and we control it, and we control it.
You know what's funny or a little scary is that you know that there's actually a second flu that's going on right now that is really bad, but has been totally contained by accident because of this. There's an African swine flu that started going around. It actually hit Poland really bad starting in February, but it hasn't spread throughout Europe because of all the containment that's happened, and nobody's talking about that flu.
Yeah, well,
but it's actually really bad.
And
like they were comparing it to H1N1 as far as the deadliness.
Right.
But because we shut everything down for coronavirus, this flu that probably would have gone through Europe and been pretty serious has been pretty much contained.
Well, but you know that normally at this time we'll talk about flu season, or before, like after Christmas and all that stuff, flu shots, some vaccination of flu season, all that stuff. There's nothing about flu season this year. And
Well,
again, right. But actually there's fewer cases of
Well, I
flu.
mean, did you see the chart of total U.S. deaths?
For what?
Like total deaths of everything. All-cause deaths. in the
All
US.
cause, like even traffic accidents,
Everything.
whatever? No, I have no idea.
Oh, it's the lowest it's ever been in like 20 years.
Oh, yeah. I was looking at that too. I wasn't looking at that chart, but I was
It
looking.
was showing March
Yeah.
was the lowest it's been in like 20 years. And they said April is going to be like literally it's going to be the lowest death month
was
because so
looking-
many people are not dying from flu,
Right.
not dying from car accidents, not dying from lots of things that happen
Right.
in day-to-day life.
Well, exactly.
That because now
That's the silver lining.
do the means justify the ends? I don't think so, because you basically are destroying an economy. But
Right.
That is one silver lining.
I
is
looked
that
at
overall
something
deaths are
similar in
down.
Europe because they are like 2 weeks ahead of us on quarantines and lockdowns and all that stuff. And I did see that. Like they were saying that March was the month with the lowest deaths on record due to traffic accidents, fatalities,
Yeah, same thing
and
here.
injuries. Basically, just not only deaths through car accidents, but also severe injuries through car accidents. Everybody's locked down, nobody's driving. So if you have like, I think in Spain it was like 100 dead people a month or something in traffic accidents, highways, whatever. It was down like, I think there's a zero actually as far as deaths. And then
Well, even crime is down a lot.
crime is down.
People
There's
aren't
no-
committing crimes.
Not only
They're
that,
afraid.
yeah. Well, even that's true. Gang members, like typical gangs that are just going out, drugs, whatever, it's locked down. You cannot go out. I mean, when everybody is free to go wherever they want, they can go on the streets, and now they can't. Because I mean, I don't care whoever you are.
Right.
I mean, you're basically not allowed in the streets. They chase you. I mean, it's like ghost town. So that is down to pollution is hugely down. I mean, talking about
Yeah, I know.
improving the environment, we just did it. I mean, China was locked down to in most of the industrial regions, and then pretty much all major industrial cities in Europe, from totally France, Spain, Germany, England. So pollution is way down. Even in the U.S., fuel consumption, all that stuff. So there's a lot of
Now,
good things that are happening.
Obviously, it's still a net negative.
Well, of
by
course.
far.
Of
but
course.
there are silver linings.
But that's always,
And obviously, listen, there's lots of on the business side. There's lots of businesses who are doing great right now.
Yes.
It's funny because we were going to talk about some of our new habits that we've acquired, and one thing that I've, typical things that you always use the excuse for of I don't have enough time.
Yeah, I know.
Now I don't have that excuse. So it's like I've been exercising more. I've been meditating more, which I've never been a big meditator, but I've been so overwhelmed that I said, I'm going to start. I meditated for an hour and a half the other day. I've never done
Jesus.
that. I've never done that in my life. For me, meditating for 20 minutes is like, I can't do it. And I sat in a room with my eyes closed for an hour and a half, and it flew by. I couldn't believe it. I looked at my phone to see how long it was. I thought it'd been maybe half an hour, and it had been an hour and a half.
Yeah, no, I noticed that too. Yeah.
And then the other thing is reading. And so one thing I wanted to do was I always want to read classics, but then as far as like classic literature, but I never have time to do that because I want to read like more relative books to me. Yeah. And so now I was like, no, I'm going to read classics. So I've been reading A Tale of Two Cities, and it's so funny because I mentioned it to a client yesterday on the phone, and I said, because she was asking me, how we're doing in our business. I said, it really is, A Tale of Two Cities is like the famous line from the opening of the book is, it's the best of times. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. And between Paris and London, because Paris was going through the French Revolution. And really, depending on the business you're in, it is the best of times or the worst of times right now. Some companies are, especially some of our e-com clients, even ones that I didn't even think would do well. Like, I won't name names, but like we have a client that sells like premium bedding and stuff, and their sales are through the roof. They sell high quality premium bedding, which I was worried because I was like, I don't know who's buying bedding right now that is like,
well, think about it. They're staying home.
I know, but if people are cutting costs, you say, do I really need this luxury bedding, or can I just go with the generic? Their sales are through the roof. It's unbelievable.
Well, we
have cleaning supply. Obviously, that one's through the roof. We have clients who are doing super well.
We're talking about.
But obviously, on the other side, our hospitality clients are shutting down their
finances.
hotels.
You are fortunate enough to have a secure job in some way. Like you're not furloughed or something. You're actually saving a lot of money, like I said last time.
Oh yeah, that was the other thing.
I have friends that I personally am saving a lot of money by not spending money that I normally spend. Yeah. I have
just
few hobbies,
out,
but just going out, eating, driving, gas, fuel, whatever, meeting with friends, going to the track every now and then, things like that. For me, again, if you lose your job, it's a whole different thing, and then you have a reduced pay or whatever. But on the personal side, basically, I'm living such a modest life that is really saving money. Really, it's like you look at your monthly expenses, and it's like, okay, well, I'm just basically staying home, so.
Right. If you're fortunate to not have your job lost or impacted by this is actually saving you a lot of money. Now, obviously, like I said, I have total empathy and sympathy for all of the people who are impacted.
And the same thing, you're an investor. If I don't want to get too much into investment advice or anything because I'm not nobody to give it, but I've been investing for probably 12 years now, and I have enough of a market experience to see recessions and pullbacks and corrections and all that stuff. And I have a few companies that I follow and all that stuff, and you can tell that those companies are solid companies, and they just, because the market is down like 30% or 25%, it's just basically buying things on sale right now. So you can actually think about this as a great opportunity to, some people say, we're down at the bottom, this or that. We could be at the bottom, but I don't want to make a huge discussion. But the bottom line is that whatever it is 20 to 30% cheaper than it used to be just a month ago.
I'll tell you one example of a company. Is not investment advice whatsoever. Do not invest. Don't listen to me. But that's been on my radar is Live Nation. Because obviously they make all their money doing concerts and events and all that. Their stock has completely dropped out of the stratosphere. They're down like 60-something%.
Right.
But, okay, so their revenue, their earnings forecasting for this year is totally thrown off, obviously. But if you look at what their earnings were for the last few years, they are they have an interesting business where on the ticketing side, they basically break even. So they try not to make money on the ticketing side, but they do advertising for all of these places. They have merchandise sales, and their operating margins on those are massive. They have like 60% operating margins on those things. Yeah. And basically, they're growing really fast. They were growing, I think, like 30% year over year. They have tons of exclusivity rights with I believe with NBA, with big comedians like Joe Rogan has exclusivity. So and Dave Chappelle. So they have all these things that it's like, okay, those don't go away. People are going to go back to going to concerts and all of that later.
Oh, yeah.
So
people like to go out. We like to socialize.
That's a stock that I was looking at. They're down 60%.
But it's not different. That's a more of a
So I'm just giving as an example. If you're an investor and you're looking for opportunities.
Look at a company like Disney. I mean, Disney is one of the major.
Disney's another one I was watching.
Right. I mean, and full disclosure, I own Disney, but and so do you, I think.
I do too. But I was thinking about owning more because.
Right. I mean, Disney obviously when first of all they own a bunch of hotels and they own all the theme parks everywhere. I mean, they started taking a hit when China was the first one to close the Shanghai.
But if you look
park.
at Disney's revenue breakdown,
right,
75, basically 25% is parks and cruises and all the physical stuff, but 75% is not.
Right.
And the other 75%, which includes like the new Disney Plus and all these streaming and shows, that is all
merchandise,
getting a big boost.
Right.
And I think the short term, yes, Disney's earnings are going to be lower this year than last year. Of course, most companies' earnings this year are going to be lower.
Gonna have that issue.
But longer term, I think the prospects are really good.
Right. Well, that's an example of a company that has survived a century of chaos, basically, and they're very reliant on their theme parks, and everybody remembers the theme parks and the massive people together standing in line, all the stuff is shut down, hotels shut down, all the stuff. But like you said, most of the revenue comes, they own ABC, ESPN, Disney Plus, the Marvel, Star Wars,
full transparency, right?
Fox.
I owned Disney for a long time, and then when it started reaching around 130 a share last year, I sold off most of my position because I was like, okay, I believed in the long-term prospects, but it was getting a little high for me, and I had made more than double my investment. So I said, okay, I'm gonna cash out. But now it's back down in the 90s,
right? And
I'm like, okay,
exactly.
Maybe I'm just gonna buy in again,
right? And it's for something. It's not because the company financials are bad. Basically, it's for a third extreme situation that is affecting everybody.
In a world where
and I think that again,
media and IP has never been more valuable.
Right.
They own all of it. They own all the biggest
on the
properties.
investment side, I think is if you have the money that you don't need in the next 12 months for living or something, you have money in savings, and right now because the interest rates are zero, I think investing in solid companies that present low risk.
I think
it's a good investment.
I think if you're a real estate investor, this is going to be an awesome opportunity too.
It will be. Maybe not right now, but it'll be very soon.
I would wait, but soon it will be. One thing I wanted to talk about actually, because I saw this bubble kind of growing a lot, and now all of a sudden it looks like it's popping in a big way, is commercial real estate. Because you have a lot of things happening at once. First of all, big news yesterday, WeWork, which is the largest owner of commercial real estate in Manhattan, if people didn't know that, and has become one of the bigger commercial real estate companies in the United States and even around the world now. They obviously, I think everybody knows their fiasco from last year, but SoftBank had issued them $3 billion in debt, I believe, as basically a saving grace when they didn't go public, because they said, okay, well, we're already massive shareholders in this company, want to keep them alive. And they pulled that money yesterday. They said, we're done.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen with WeWork.
Well,
they own massive amounts of commercial real estate, and if they go under it, that's going to be a fire sale.
Well, I mean, the business model for those guys
no
is
one
totally
can go to
shut.
their offices.
I mean, it's like basically shared office space. Is basically a office rental, executive suites rental, stuff like that. Office share space. Nobody's going to work. Everybody's telecommuting now or working from home, and even when people decide to go back to work, the new normal for many corporations would be, okay, we're going to split the teams.
So,
have some people work from home just in case. Other people like a little redundancy.
That was
gets
my question. So I already thought the commercial real estate bubble was way overinflated already. This has caused, I think, is going to cause it to completely pop. Because the biggest question is, and I have my thoughts, but I want to hear yours, is, okay, after this is over, will the commercial real estate market bounce back? Are people going to, or are offices going to, are companies going to start realizing, hey, you know what? We don't need these major leases. Or like you said, maybe half of our workforce doesn't need to be in the office.
Well, that already happened after the recession. A lot of companies that were paying huge amounts of money for, office space rentals. I mean, huge buildings. They already started allowing in fact, they had incentives for their employees to work from home. So they wouldn't like there were situations where they had an office in some kind of flashy building, a whole floor for maybe 50 people, but they actually employed 100. And those 100 people had to share cubes and office space. So they had turns or shifts where this person will go 3 days a week. This other person will go 3 days a week, and they share the same cube, the same space. So they were actually maximizing that. But I think now it's going to be even more extreme as far as, again, it's not going to go rapidly back to, okay, everybody goes back to work, but also companies are going to realize, maybe it's not so bad if people start telecommuting. It's the same thing that we discussed with schools, or colleges, which is a whole different discussion. But I think a lot of things will change to reduce expenses, to reduce risk, to reduce everything, because those people that were not, or companies that were not equipped to allow their employees to work from home for a lot of reasons, basically having a laptop versus a desktop computer, having all the security in place as far as logging in, and sometimes they require people to have a dedicated internet line that is secure versus or VPN or something like that versus just the traditional cable that you get in your house. So a lot of those things had to be in place, but once companies are forced to do that, they will not see a reason to go back. They will downsize for sure. I'm not sure they will eliminate, because a lot of people and companies like this kind of community behavior of having.
Right, I'm not saying offices are going to go away.
Right,
but I think that the commercial real estate markets could see a drop in prices of easily 20-30%, and I don't think that's going to recover so quick.
And the same thing for retail. I mean, a lot of retail stores are going to realize that.
Yeah, well, that's another
DTC
topic
that we're talking is
especially also. I follow retail a lot because it's such an interesting. Because obviously we don't work so much with retail. We do mostly e-commerce, but even if you're in e-commerce, you have to have your a pulse on the retail space, because that affects so much. At the end of the day, now that number is going to change, but last year 85% of consumer spending still happened in retail.
Right.
And so you still have to have your pulse on retail. I think that I don't know what the new normal is going to be as far as retail.
But you do
like
know
malls that were already in trouble are. I wouldn't be surprised if we see more mall closures this year than we've seen in the last decade, just because most of them are debt financed, and all of the stores are shut down. All of the malls are shut down. And I think we're going to see a major as far as you talk about contained crises within certain sectors, I think the mall sector is going to totally collapse.
That's
honestly.
huge space.
Other than the few malls that are more experience based and maybe a little more premium, and have not all malls are going to go away, and there's some malls that actually do really well still, but I think a lot of the malls that were kind of just barely hanging on are going to collapse.
Not just the malls, but also independent retail stores. We talked to a lot of companies that are on the verge or on the fence versus DTC versus going retail and trying to put their products on a big box like a Macy's or this is fashion or Walmart or whatever. And now they're realizing, why do I spend so much money and effort trying to sell at this particular store when it's closed? Basically, I did all this marketing driving my traffic and my customers to Bed Bath & Beyond, and it's closed. Or Walmart is still open, but any other type of retail store that is now closed. And you say, when I can do the same thing and invest the same money to sell directly to the consumer, my profit margin is higher. So if I take that advertising money and I put it into developing my own direct-to-consumer solution or option, I'm going to compensate that because I'm going to advertise that, and then my margins will be higher. So you control your product from the production stages all the way to the distribution and selling. So I think that is going to make a lot of companies decide, and we have some examples, decide, okay, I'm going to sell directly to consumer because I cannot always rely on the stores. For one, you have limited control on where they put your product. They usually control their prices, and they oscillate your prices up and down depending on supply and demand, and you are at the mercy of their advertising as well. So
yes, but obviously the biggest thing, the most important thing that you mentioned is the distribution.
Right.
That's their advantage. Is that
of
they
course,
have the distribution.
But that's when you
getting the type of distribution, like you said, Macy's. Okay, if you get nationwide into Macy's, replicating that type of distribution D2C is an incredible task.
It's difficult, of course.
I'm not saying that people shouldn't go for it, but I don't know.
You know how many Macy's stores are closing now?
Oh, all of them.
I know.
I mean,
well, not just now because of the
it's
pandemic.
Funny because I was driving
But how many that were closing before already?
Well, I was driving around the other day, and it was so almost ominous because I drove past our local J.C. Penney's parking lot,
shut down,
completely empty. I drove past just a bunch of retailers, and they were just empty, and it was really ominous. And I was like, J.C. Penney laid off or furloughed all of their workers. I think Kohl's did as well. Did Macy's do it too?
I don't know in all the states, but they have obviously all the New Yorks and all that stuff are closed.
I don't know. I think that a lot of retail stores that were kind of hanging on barely, this is going to cause a ton of them.
But I mean, I don't want to sound too pessimistic on this. It's actually a good thing. I mean, consumers now that are by no choice. I mean, basically by law, basically in home arrest to just put it in one way in some places, either voluntary or mandatory. Basically, they cannot leave their homes.
I
so
thought that
other than buying food, you can't even do anything that is, or going to the bank, any other retail shopping you cannot do. So they're forced into buying online. That's what we're talking about, Amazon and other stuff. But
I thought that retail would turn into it was already. In fact, it's funny because in January I wrote about before this all happened in my weekly newsletter. Postmates was really trying to grow its retail side of things, because obviously Postmates mostly delivers from restaurants and stuff like that. But they were really trying to partner with retailers so that if you buy something online, like for example from a JCPenney's, instead of having to get it shipped to you and take days and compete directly with Amazon, they can literally grab that unit from your local JCPenney's and get it to you in 2 hours, like 2-hour delivery, right? Which no Amazon even can't compete with that, especially on like fashion and things like that. And so I already thought that was going to happen. Now, whether it would be Postmates or DoorDash or Uber or whoever, that last mile infrastructure was really going to be built out, where you go online to buy things and they take from the local retail inventory. And I think that was going to happen anyways. I just think that this is going to majorly accelerate that to where retail stores act primarily actually as distribution centers for online purchases rather than point of sales, basically. Revenue, instead of acting as revenue drivers, they more are acting as distribution centers.
And the other thing, I mean, it's not like one trend applies to everybody. Obviously, we know clothing and fashion and apparel, stuff like that is very difficult because you have sizes and colors, and people they need to try things on. So it's a little more difficult when people buy clothing online, and then chances of fitting you perfectly is very hard. I mean, everybody goes to a store like a Macy's or whatever they go, and they grab like 3 or 4 different options, sizes, colors, look at the mirror, fitting room, blah, blah, they pick on one. Buying those things online is a little more difficult. So I would see people still go into stores, and that's why they skew the numbers on online retailers.
Yeah, but that's why they offer free returns and all
right,
that.
They offer free returns. Some companies actually offer you to get like 2 or 3 sizes and then return the ones that you don't like. They have those offers, and they're going to have to adapt because it's very hard. I mean, and then even the sizes are not standard. I mean, a lot of things you buy that you say, okay, I'm usually a medium or a large, and then you buy something that is medium or large, and it's either too large or too small. It's kind of hard, even for shoes and everything else. So those things.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest challenge in fashion, and I admire so much the people who work on the operation side of fashion, because I can't imagine the inventory headaches is an understatement that you go through, because I've seen it firsthand. And it's just, the truth is, it's so funny with fashion that a lot of companies in fashion will have the best marketing, the best branding, and they'll lose because they don't have the best supply chain people.
Right.
And supply chain operations and people who are able to really manage inventory extremely well in fashion are the ones who win. And I think it's one of the most underrated things, because when people think fashion, they think it's all marketing and brand, and obviously that's a major part of it, but a lot of people on the outside do not look at the inventory management of fashion, which is so difficult.
Having flexible return policies, and just make it frictionless for a customer.
But all those things need a margin. That's the thing.
Right.
That's why I think we've seen, if you look at inflation for fashion brands, as far as, because there's the generic cheaper brands, right, that sell for cheap, and then you have the high-end luxury that sell a $500 shirt or whatever. But then you have this very large category where you've seen a lot of companies pop up, like an Everlane, which unfortunately had to lay off a lot of people this past week, and lots of D2Cs where they pop up in this, I don't know what you would call it exactly, but kind of premium mid-market, not luxury as far as like super high-end, trying to compete with the Gucci and Ferragamos and all of those guys, but not, cheap. But I think we've seen inflation on the prices of that mid-market because they offer all these concessions so that, okay, we'll send you multiple sizes, like you said, or maybe we offer free returns. But all those things cost money, okay? Right. So if you're offering free returns, that return, you have to pay the shipping for that, or you have to pay, all those things cost money. And so because of that, a shirt, a premium, let's say, premium quality men's collared shirt that normally maybe you could sell for $100, now they sell for $140 because they have all these extra costs in place, not to mention the massive competition and customer acquisition costs going up. And I think that we've seen a lot of inflation in the pricing in that end. But now I think a lot of people are saying, you know what, I don't need a $140 dress shirt right now. I'm good with the $60 one that I can buy on Amazon or something like that. Right. So I don't know what's going to happen, especially in the mid-market fashion. I think that's a category that could be majorly affected by this because of just the logistical issues combined with people saving
technology
money.
Will help too. There's AR type applications now where you can actually.
We're still far away from that.
We are, but
really
for fashion
good.
They have like for example, like I said, you normally use a large size for a t-shirt or something, but then you put your actual measurements and say, okay, measure the shoulder, chest, whatever it is. They will tell you. No, I mean the algorithm will tell you, okay, well, for our size is going to be a medium or an extra large or whatever based on your actual dimensions, So, like, I mean, that you see that in Amazon when people have all these shirts, and then most of them from all places come from China, and China has notoriously small sizes. So when they say something is large, for an American size is like a small, and everybody complains. And you see the comments and saying, or even they have the description saying, American sizes order 2 sizes larger for some reason. So, so when the shirt comes with an L, meaning large, for an American size is actually a small or a medium. So. And that's just kind of like a little patchwork. People say, "Oh, I ordered this size, and I'm 150 pounds and 6'4", whatever, So, but AR will solve that. It's not really here yet, but I think in the future it will be something that.
But that's not something that right now is going to be a solution.
No, it's not.
Companies.
It's not. But
well, you talk about Amazon. I think because Amazon's really trying to push their way into fashion. Into what I'm talking about, the premium mid-market and even luxury fashion. And I think they're going to lose. I don't think that they're going to win because, first of all, they try to make partnerships. I mean, Nike left. Nike is an example of the premium mid-market. And they left. They tried making a deal with LVMH, who owns like Louis Vuitton and lots of other luxury brands. They said no. They basically said, no, we're not going to work with Amazon. I think that Amazon's not going to win because... especially the more premium fashion, Amazon is not.
They're working more. They're working more with celebrities and things like that.
Yeah, but just because you have celebrities doesn't mean that you have a premium brand,
right?
A luxury brand, especially.
They're trying to,
They're trying, and I think that normally when I see Amazon get in a new category, I'm worried for the competitors because it's tough to compete with Amazon. In fashion, I'm not worried because, first of all, I think Amazon's going to lose a bunch of money because of the exact logistical reasons that I said. Amazon has, and it's done well for them so far, but in fashion, it's going to kill their margins because they have super generous return policies. So you could return something 3 times on clothing if it doesn't fit you, and they'll pay for it and not cost you any money at all. It'll all be free. If you don't think that's going to cost them a ton of money, you're crazy. And then on top of that, I just think that they're not going to get the luxury brands to want to go on Amazon. We already seen the luxury brands saying no.
Luxury brands almost see Amazon like diluting their brand.
Yeah. I mean,
and they prefer not to be there. For one, they don't control anything. I mean, basically, Amazon is there, and they put them in the middle of other brands that are not so well known. So
and the customer, the UI is identical, whether you're buying some generic item or whether you're buying Louis Vuitton. And that's not what they want, okay? They want Louis Vuitton to have the Louis Vuitton experience.
Right.
And so that's why LVMH said, no, we're not going to partner
I
with
would
Amazon.
probably see more some of those brands selling like not FBA, like basically fulfilled by them or something, just using Amazon as a marketplace to list their products or something.
No, they definitely would not. No, they said no. They're not going to do it because Amazon is too dilutive to brands. And again, as we've talked many times, Amazon wants all control of all data, all customer experience.
Right.
And if
that is the key part.
And in the case, if you already, Amazon is advantageous if you don't have a well-known name yet, because it can get in front of a lot of customers. But if you already are Louis Vuitton, why do you need Amazon?
Right.
You're
that's the same
you're
thing
just
that I
giving
say,
them a cut for no reason.
It's the same thing that I tell hotels and hospitality with the OTS, with the online travel agencies. You want the online travel agency to get you the customer that is used to price shopping and comparing prices and all that stuff. And that's fine. You're paying them up to 30% commission or whatever, depending on the property. But then once the customer comes to your property, you better work hard to get that customer to be your customer, because up until then, you don't own that customer. The OTA owns it. But then once they come to your property, if they don't come back to you, booking directly through you and all that stuff, that's your fault. So you already paid the 30% commission. So now get that customer. So it's similar in Amazon or with Amazon with retailer stuff. So, but let's so we're talking at the beginning about the new normal stuff. What are you doing these days that is different than you used to do before? Aside from working out like a maniac now, you see how you're getting bulky.
I mean, honestly, reading more for sure. That's been one thing where I used to read a lot. I used to love reading, but it's just hard when you're busy to really sit down and read. And to be honest, I use the excuse of not having time, but a lot of times, because reading is one of those things that you got to really sit down and do. And it's so easy. And I'm totally guilty of this, of like, okay, I could spend, this hour before bed reading, or I could just be on my phone or something or whatever.
I know, the phone is a big distraction.
And so now that I have more time, I'm not using that excuse. I've been reading. I try now that I have so much more time to spend at least an hour a day reading. Some days, the other day, I spent like almost 3 hours reading, and it's really nice actually, especially because like we talked a little about last week and kind of reflecting. There's certain, especially on the business side, there's certain pivots that we may have to make, that a lot of businesses may have to make.
Which is good. Yeah.
But that I don't necessarily, like I told you last week, like I was saying, that I'm someone who always has a bias for action, which in most cases is good. I'm always like, oh, I just want to go, go, go. But right now, I just don't know. I have ideas of what we could do, but I'm like, I don't know exactly how to go about this. I don't know exactly the strategy that I want to use. And so I just have said, okay, well, why don't I just really try to learn and think? And so especially on the media side, because, we've talked a lot on this podcast about the shift in that I think basically the next Dior, the next Nike and Adidas, the next, all of these types of brands that are being built now are going to be media first companies, right? Whereas the model used to always be, you create the products and the brands and then use media to promote them. I think you create the media brand and then build products around it and build brands around it. And so I'm trying to, but how do you build something like that? And I'm trying to think, I'm trying to learn. I don't know, I have ideas, but I don't know exactly how to go start and how I want to start. So I've been reading books. Like I'll give you a few, just if people have time, they want to read. I've been reading Who is Michael Ovitz, which came out last year, which is basically Michael Ovitz, founder of CAA, the biggest creative artist agency, the biggest Hollywood agency. It's pretty good so far. I'm about halfway through. I'll probably finish it within a couple days. I've been reading what's it called? People as Media, which is like a really small book. Very few people have heard it. You can look up. I think it actually sold out on Amazon, and it's not even on Kindle, so I don't know. But it's, if you can find it, read it. It's called People as Media, and it's really good. And this person was really ahead of their time. I forget the name of the author. We can put it in the show notes, but the book came out, I think, like 15 years ago. He was talking about this exact concept of people as media, and basically exactly the things that we talk about here, but 15 years ago. And so I've just been reading a lot on that. I've been reading, there's some really great bloggers out there that write really great stuff. So I've just been spending a lot of time thinking, honestly, and just trying to learn and decide on the next steps. Really,
I've it's funny when they say social distance. I've actually realized that I'm spending less time on social media. Not that I was much of a social media person before, but now it's so saturated with everything and then you get all this primarily bad news because that's what people read all the time and share and all that stuff, that I'm actually doing more social distance with social media. As far as I do a quick look in the morning and then another quick look in the evening, but during the day I stay away from the Twitters and the Instagrams and all that stuff. I never do.
I've broken a bad habit.
I never even do Facebook.
My morning routine used to be wake up, check email, and then after check email, I would check Twitter.
Yeah.
And I've broken the Twitter part because I was just like, well, do I really want to read about like coronavirus first thing in the morning?
That's the
so
thing.
I actually broke that habit that I had for a long. It wasn't a good habit.
That's my social distance more than. I mean, obviously we go social distance when it's really more like physical distance. I mean, you can still be social with your friends and talk to them and text them on Facebooks. I mean, like Instagram Live or Facebook Live or FaceTime, whatever. The WhatsApp. I do a lot of WhatsApp with my friends, especially the ones in Europe, and we do video conversations all the time. But. As far as social media per se, I have a much more social distance with social media because it's just overwhelming. Everybody has an opinion, everybody's criticizing everything, and it just gets into this negative spiral where nobody has good news or anything, and it's like, okay, just let's relax, let's move over, So that's one of the things that I'm doing less. On the other hand, I'm also doing a lot of thinking and I'm reading. I mean, I'm an avid reader, so that hasn't changed for me. I still have my habits of reading a little bit in the morning and then in the evenings. So I'm basically continuing that. It hasn't changed. What I'm doing a lot now is listening to many more podcasts. To the point that I have some that I always listen to, and I have a variety of topics. I mean, some of them are sports related, which now obviously they don't have much sports to talk about. Some others are business podcasts, others are like Formula One racing and all that stuff. Others are just lifestyle podcasts and things. So I typically listen to another podcast with a doctor. Is I think the title of the podcast is the Drive with Peter Attia. He's a doctor, and I follow him, and he's more into longevity hacks and things like that. But he obviously has had very good doctors and virologists and people that actually are reliable sources explaining their thoughts and opinions on the development of the coronavirus. Yeah, I just said it.
I was going to say, we're way over on the coronavirus talk.
We've talked without mentioning the name. But anyways, he has very good doctors that you can trust. It's not like the Joe Schmo making an opinion, So they give you different points of views. And obviously, him being a doctor, he also asks very unique questions that are very educated questions from his doctor point of view. So I've listened to him. Joe Rogan, obviously, he's good. He has always comedians and stuff, and they have lifestyle things. James Altucher, I also like. He's an entrepreneurial guy that has gone through ups and downs in business and life, and he has usually pretty good guests also. So I don't know. I just try to stay away from the topic, even though it's very difficult these days, but also try to keep a clear mind. And the main thing to me is that I'm always optimistic. And every day I think that we're closer to the end, which is basically true, whatever that end is. And like you said, the new normal is like, okay, yeah, in the beginning it's like, oh, fuck, what's going on here? Everything's coming down or whatever. And then you kind of start getting used to it. And it shows you how much ability humans in general have to adapt. Like when it's something like a new thing, it's like, oh, shit. But then you kind of start adapting. And I mean, here in Arizona, we're lucky. We can normally leave the home and go do this and that and all that stuff up until like recently, even though now we have a little more restrictions. But even when we were free to do whatever we wanted, I actually tried to avoid possible situations where I would come in contact with a person that maybe was with coronavirus or something. So I was fine just staying home and doing my thing, So I don't know. I think it gives you a chance to reflect and think, you know what? If I can go out, it's not so bad. I obviously I'm older, so I grew up in a house where we didn't have 20 channels of TV or 40 or Netflix or Amazon Primes or Yards or anything. So it was more of my normal upbringing, you know.
I do think that the new normal, and I don't know. It's too soon to tell what major behavioral changes will happen, but I do think the new normal hopefully will be that people do save more money and are less. I think materialism will go down a bit.
That's another point
because
I was going to say.
People are going to be less focused on materialistic goods and more things that matter.
Right.
That doesn't mean it's going to go away. Humans are always going to be materialistic.
But it's funny because remember you and I were talking about being more of a minimalist or minimalistic or
I think
minimalist.
Minimalist is the wrong term.
I know.
I'm personally not a fan of minimalism. I think it's a cop out.
Well, I mean,
that's a different topic. But
I mean, when you and I have a lot of friends.
But focusing more on what matters.
Right. It's fine to get things or have this kind of lifestyle, but then everybody progresses. And I used to own a lot of things that they were good by the time I bought them or I got them for whatever reason, but then you stop using them. I don't care if it's clothing or toys or tools or gadgets or whatever. And then it's good to kind of take inventory of the stuff that you don't use and just either sell it or donate it or get rid of it. But, you realize that you start accumulating stuff. And then I have a lot of... from paying like $150 a month in a storage unit where I had junk, not junk per se, but things that I never use and I will never use again. Right. Yet I was paying $150 a month. And then I realized I'm paying $100 a month, $150 a month for something that I will never use. So if you remember about last year or maybe 2 years ago, I said, fuck it, I'm just going to get rid of all that stuff. So I went there, I emptied everything. We sold things right away to people that actually may need them for a very good deal. And when I sell things, I'm not trying to make money. I'm just trying to get rid of them so I don't have to go somewhere and do something, Or if I can donate them, I donate them to somebody else, to like Goodwill or something. But then all of a sudden it's like, okay, I freed up $150 a month for something that I'm never going to use. And if you have a couple things that you're going to use in the future, you use them. But the bottom line is that you haven't used something for like a year, chances are you're not going to use it again. So now I'm happy that I don't have all those things, and simplify my life as much as possible. I have 2-3 things that I like, and they actually make me enjoy every day, whether it's hobbies or cars or in the garage, or I'm building now a little workout area in the backyard, like a little mini gym, something. But then you realize I'm happy with all the stuff that I got rid of because I don't actually miss it, So I'm not sure you want to call it minimalism or whatever, but it's just basically you add one thing,
resetting
and you get
priorities.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you have a backpack and you're always hiking or something. You have a limited space to carry stuff with you. So obviously you decide to carry something else. You need to get rid of something else that you're not going to be able to fit. So I kind of use that analogy all the time because if you go on a hiking trip and you can take maybe a spare set of clothes and a jacket and a water and a tool, like a multi-knife, whatever, you take all these things that you think you're going to use and all of a sudden you say, oh, I'm going to take also this other camera or this other thing just in case or whatever. Okay, well, you have limited space. So you add something else, you need to get rid of something else. But that's kind of like the philosophy, So and that applies to everything in life. It's not different in business or whatever. You need to keep progressing. And every time you add something, you need to also delete something that you're not using. So we are very good at adding more stuff to our lives, but not so good at eliminating things from our lives, right. So anyways, that's kind of something that I've been thinking about now. And honestly, I'm happy because I've been doing that for the last 12 to 18 months, and now I'm happy that I did it because it's kind of like much simpler, monthly bills and things like that too. So,
all right, well, I think it's about time to wrap up.
I think it's good. Any other thoughts? One thing I do miss myself personally is I'm a big race fan and
for me it's NBA
and all that stuff.
And there's no NBA.
But
this is like peak time of year. We're going into playoffs and it.
You miss it. You like to play basketball too yourself, and you play the yard or something or the parks or whatever. But I miss not being able to go to. I go to the local racetrack, workout track, like almost weekly, and then every now and then I go to a big track with a car and then race to another stuff. And that stuff I miss because to me it's like a real mental relief, to just go there and forget everything and just drive fast and enjoy the sport that I really love. And so that part I'm missing. Obviously, all the sports on TV as well. It's kind of like, and that's one thing that people are talking about when the NBA is coming back, or if it's coming back, or the NFL and all that stuff. Americans love sports. I mean, when we had the 9/11, yeah, it was a catastrophe and it was a huge deal for the country, but at least we had sports that was taking our money away from the stress and all that. Yeah. And now we don't even have that. We don't even have social life or anything like that. So that's part of that is missing.
I'm a very, how do you say it? Like almost to a fault, hyper rational person. Like I'm a super pragmatist when it comes to things. I don't let emotions cloud my judgment in life, or at least I do my absolute best not to. But I say that sports is my outlet for that, because in sports I'm the opposite. I'm completely irrational and I'll be emotional over because it doesn't matter, because there's no consequences.
And that happens to a lot of people.
And so I'm okay being emotional about, like I'm a Suns fan, being from Phoenix in basketball, and they suck. And yes, it will emotionally affect me more when the Suns lose than when I lose like a deal in a company business life. And it's like, because it's almost like an outlet for, okay, I can be emotional and irrational here because it doesn't matter. But yeah, I think it's like everything. Like people have their outlets, and when you're dealing with stress and then you don't have that outlet,
and that's one of the reasons why I think the president or Trump wants to get back to normal as soon as possible. He shoots his something mouth all the time when he says, by April 15th we're gonna go back to normal. It'll be a beautiful thing to go to church and all that stuff. Obviously that's not gonna happen. Tremendous, fantastic, all that. But now he's at the end of April. He's just trying to motivate the country. I think sometimes he backfires, obviously, because people quote him and then they say, you said this and that. But I think he's just trying to keep people motivated to say, hey, we're working hard on this thing finally, and then we're going to do whatever we can, and then soon, whenever it is, we're going to be together enjoying the things that we like, whether it's going to church or sports or whatever. We'll reopen the country for everything. So one final note for me is, obviously, we know how much we owe to doctors, nurses, everybody in the medical community right now. They're working like freaking overtime just to take care of that stuff. But at the same time, there's a lot of minimum wage workers that are being paid like $12, $14, $15 an hour, and they were fighting for that minimum wage to be increased and all that stuff. And all of a sudden, you realize how much we depend on them. These are the guys that are actually working at Amazon warehouses or supermarkets or bagging clothes. All the stores that remain open, the majority of the workers there are only making $12, $13, $14, $15 an hour. And so I think that this is a credit too, because we were always complaining about minimum wage and all that stuff. And honestly, I was part of that too, saying, okay, well, if you don't have any education or anything, you need to just be paid what you're worth, for the company. But at the same time, in situations like this, those are the guys that are keeping the country alive right now. They're keeping the country going. You go to a store and you have these cashiers, registers, people stocking food and organizing things or whatever. And any stores, Amazon workers, drivers, deliveries, all that stuff, which is basically keeping us going. So a little bit of a shout out to them just for all what they do.
And one other note I'll say is, if you're fortunate enough to be in a position where you're not heavily impacted by this, or especially financially, I would encourage people to give back or help others in any way. Like, even if it's a little thing, like helping someone pay for their groceries or things like that.
Right.
A lot of people are just out of jobs right now. I personally have helped a few people pay some bills, like medical bills and stuff. And just because I'm not super financially impacted by this, so because of that, I want to help people who are.
And the same thing, we're talking the other day. You get any money from the stimulus package that is going to come to pretty much every American.
Yeah, you get the money and you don't need it.
Right.
It would be a real nice thing if you could help other people.
If you can help other people that not just throwing the money to charity or something, but anybody that you know personally that say, okay, this guy has been hard hit. He was doing very well. He's working very hard, and now all of a sudden everything came to a screeching halt. And you get this kind of stimulus money, whether it's the full check or a partial check or something, and you say, you know what? I'm going to give it to this person. That person will be grateful for life because you're helping somebody actually make it. And I think is the right thing to do. So, anyways, that's just my opinion. I think we'll be doing well. We'll be recovering for sure. I think I'm actually, like I said, I'm optimistic. This is probably a good test for all of us to test our endurance, our chance to reflect, to learn from this, do better in the future, and especially for companies to be more self-sufficient, less reliant on other countries' manufacturing and everything else, and become more anti-fragile. I would like to be in the future.
We can talk about that on another episode.
Right,
it's a bigger topic.
Right, exactly. So everything is good. So anything else, David?
That's it for me.
All right, guys. Well, thank you very much, and thanks for sticking with us, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.